One, I've always loved Roland Emmerich. I love his movies. I think fans really love his movies. They're always, crowd pleasers. I think people have, found comfort in some weird way in watching these big disaster movies and realizing that, mankind can actually save the day. They like to see themselves reflected in those kinds of stories. I really loved when Roland came to me and said, hey, I have this idea, I've got this part, it's written for a white man or a man, and I would love for you to inhabit the role. And when I found out that it was the head of NASA and she could be portrayed as a black woman, I thought that's really cool, and I think that's really important, that we see ourselves as black people, and especially women, reflected in that way. And I think I've always had a fascination, with space and the moon. I'm very into astrology, and so the moon plays a big part in, astrology and on the gravitational pull on us as human beings. And so just to have a chance to explore this world and be a part of, a big disaster movie like this, I've never been a part of that, and I've always wanted to be. So there were many reasons for me to say yes to this. Here's what's most impactful to me about this movie. It's everything. Because when you work on a movie like this, you sit in a small space, and in our case, it was like a small space shuttle, and we look outside of our windows, and there was nothing but blue and green screen every day. So to finally see the movie in all its entirety, in all of its bigness, and realize what Roland Emmerich had inside his creative mind and see how he brought that to life was just amazing. The whole thing was a spectacle. I will say I was most excited to see what the inside of the moon would look like per Roland Emmerich. Like what, from his point of view, what would that look like? And that was pretty exciting. I was waiting to see that because he tried to describe it while we were shooting, and just none of us understood it. None of us got what it would actually be. So it was cooler because we were in a real space shuttle. That was the one sense of reality that I guess we really had. This was a real space shuttle that had really flown in space before, so all of it was real. And there was a feeling of, okay, we're really doing this thing, and I think we held on to that sense of reality because everything else was either fake or non-existent. I loved working with Patrick Wilson and John Bradley. I hadn't met either one of them before this experience. I had only been fans of their work. Patrick I saw in Midway, the movie he did with Roland before this, and John, Game of Thrones. He was, I think, one of the most beloved characters on that series. So to, now get to be stuck with them in a tiny shuttle was a pleasure, and it was fun. We were shooting in the beginning of the pandemic, and so the sad part about working with them was we didn't really get to hang out and do what actors normally do, chop it up all the time, go to dinner, have lunches, spend hours talking to one another. We had to be very isolated from one another to stop the spread of COVID around our set. But what that did was when we did get in a space together and we could take our masks off and we could see each other's face, we enjoyed that experience so much more because we knew that we only had a little bit of time to experience each other that way, and so we made sure that we soaked up all of those minutes when we did get to be together, and we talked about everything from MMA fighting to our favorite foods to our favorite books to what we believed about this conspiracy of the moon, to our children, our family. We got deep really fast in a short period of time, which is what we do as actors. I absolutely loved working with Roland. I loved his sense of confidence, as he should. Nobody does these films better than Roland Emmerich. And I loved just the way in which he approached it. He made us, especially me, feel very comfortable, in this genre. If we ever had a question, what I loved about him is he would just say, "Oh, this is going to be fine. Don't worry. It's all good." He would put us at ease if we didn't understand something. He made us really feel like he had it under control, and that was comforting because nothing was there, and so we had to believe that at the end of the day, You know, it was all going to be there and all be there in the right way. And I really loved that. And he was also funny. He was always saying something ridiculously funny that would always sort of lighten the mood on the set, which I think was very important as we were working in the middle of the pandemic. I did Moonfall, right? It was the first film I did after I directed my own film. So I certainly saw the job of Roland Emmerich's with new glasses. You know, I now understood what it was to lead an entire crew and cast of actors over the finish line and tell a story. And never again will I go on a set and question a director and say, why are we shooting it in this order? That was a constant question I used to always have. Now I get it, and I will never ask that question, ever again.
I think the thing that, I mean, one, just working with Roland again was exciting enough for me to jump on board. I had a great time with him on the first film I did with him on Midway. And there are a number of things. I don't get to do, this character is different than a lot of characters that I play. And I haven't done a space movie, hadn't done a science fiction movie. So this checked a lot of boxes for me. And aside from the, you know, and also the fact that it was, a lot of movies weren't shooting in 2020. So we all felt very fortunate just to be working with people that we got along with, honestly. It's interesting. My favorite scenes in the movie are usually defined by the experience, not by, you know, so all the scenes in the cockpit, which were fun because I was in a room full of other people. Those were exciting to me. But of course, everything was green screen. I mean, the things that were practical are usually the things for me personally that I enjoy. Riding that old bike was cool, the old Norton, and even that stunt that was pretty scary, but all the water rushing in the hotel lobby, that was also really thrilling. I can't say it was cool or fun, but it was rewarding and thrilling. So yeah, those were two scenes that off the top of my head that I had the most fun with. Yeah, I mean, this whole cast down the line, even Charlie Plummer that played my son, and having Michael Pena in there. I mean, it's really a great group of people. But yes, specifically playing sort of a foil to John Bradley and being the straight man to his wacky hijinks was super fun. And then having a great sparring partner in Halle Berry, couldn't ask for more. I mean, she was a ton of fun to play with, and also the fact that we had to have this built-in relationship and friction right off the bat. That's oftentimes harder to do even than a romantic scene, because you've got to have a built-in trust to just be able to just get at each other, and that takes a lot of trust. So we inherently were trusting in each other, and I think that was important. Well, this is my second film with Roland, and you know, Roland's the kind of guy that whether it's a historical movie or a big disaster movie, nothing is off limits or too big for him. He always has such a very cool and respectful and casual demeanor. Even if he's upset at something, it's never overwhelming. He always at least seems in complete control. So that gives us such faith as actors, because we know we're in such good hands, and you feel like, oh, he's got it. He knows what he's going to do, and that's helpful.
I read a book called Who Built the Moon by two English authors, and from that moment on, whenever I looked at the moon, I kind of asked myself, so what could be the story? And then I came up with the story that the moon falls to Earth, and through that we learn, you know, what it really is, and who built it, and then reveal, you know, more or less the secret behind the moon. Well, you know, Halle's part was first like a man, and it was like for us clear that we cannot like have three men, you know, be in this capsule. So we kind of played around and decided, no, it has to be the second acting, which becomes then the acting director of NASA, because she is also like kind of inventing all the different things, She kind of says like, we have to do this, we have to do that, so it's, and then it was also for me pretty clear that we needed a strong woman. And that's when Halle Berry's name came up, and I said always to myself, will she do it? And then she did it right away. It was like kind of really fun, and also talk to her and see what she kind of like wanted to bring to the part. And then Patrick Wilson, I know from Midway, and I always honest to God, I always saw him more as the astronaut. Whenever he walked in and he put the glasses on, I said, oh, okay. But then, like having him as an astronaut with his acting abilities was awesome. And he brought also so much, to this movie in heart and just like how his troubled son, in a way, becomes, like a little bit better person. Was really, really great. And then what should I say about John Bradley? He's just born to play parts like that, He's like just this lovable, funny, heartful human being who can bring this to the screen. Well, it was like always my wish to work with NASA. And when it happened, it was great. And then we had like also very specific questions for them, because when a movie like this is not built on facts, it becomes very fast silly. And you never want to have your movie feeling silly. So, and it was really, really important. They told us a couple of things which we should consider, and we actually did. And then there was a lot of other scientists and astronauts involved, because when we shot, for example, the shuttle cockpit, we had like every day an astronaut with us who was flying a shuttle.